All right. With zero preparation, ladies and gentlemen, joining me on the line, he is from Cinemablend.com. He writes, talks, and thinks about movies. His name is Mike Reyes. Hey, Mike, what's going on?
Zero preparation on your end, maybe. I'm always prepared.
I was bored.
I am doing well. How about yourself?
I was bored prepared, you butthole.
Oh yeah, I guess we don't want to jump in with the bleeps just yet. Not that type of week.
Oh, I was like, what? I was trying to think of something that I could call myself, and I couldn't think of anything really good, and that's all that came out.
We have some interesting updates on a story that we're going to talk about today.
Oh, cool. Well, let's get to the movie reviews. This week in the theaters or Netflix or I don't know. There's so many different ways that movies can come out anymore. What's our first movie this week?
I guess we'll start with the awards hopeful that I happened to see back at the Toronto International Film Festival that is finally starting to release in theaters right now. Empire of Light. And it is a film directed by Sam Mendes, who most of you would remember from his work in Skyfall, Inspector, American Beauty, 1917. So obviously, especially with 1917 being fresh in people's minds, Empire of Light is something that, they're really going to push for awards consideration. And it is a film about a woman named Hillary, played by Olivia Colman, who works at a movie theater on the English seaside in the 1980s. And she strikes up a romance with a younger employee played by Michael Ward. And we get to see that play out as well as some 1980s history sort of mingle into the events that are portrayed. Okay.
Any good?
It's good. I mean, it's another magic of cinema movie to a certain extent. It's not really focused on that sort of story completely, but it is definitely a key component.
Okay.
Because again, Hillary is working as like a manager or a co-manager at a movie theater. So you get to see the ins and outs of what's going on. There's the projectionist as a character, and you see certain films. So it's always fun with period pieces like this to see what movies are showing on the marquee. Like I think Empire Strikes Back debuts at some point, or comes back at some point in the film. But it's Olivia Colman's performance is probably the linchpin that they're going to sell this movie on. As far as everything else goes, the social message is kind of okay, but not really built to last. Okay. And I mean, it is a good movie. It's just I've seen better from Sam Mendes, and what I will definitely highlight is Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross do the musical score for this, and that's another fantastic body of work from them.
Trent is really good at this stuff. A lot of people like to paint him in the box of just Nine Inch Nails. He's really good at this stuff.
No, ever since Social Network in 2010, he and Atticus Ross. I can't remember if they've been working together since then, or if it was just Trent Reznor with Social Network and then Atticus Ross came in later. But they, as a team, really have worked well together. And the Watchmen scores, the score to the show, has been fantastic. It was fantastic because their work, and they've done they first collaborated together for Social Network, and then he's done Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. They did Gone Girl. They've built reputations. They even did Soul, a Pixar movie, and that was beautiful. They did that with John Baptiste, who used to be the musical director on Colbert.
Yeah, well, yeah, he really is good. Like I said, a lot of people like to paint him into the corner. Oh, he's just the dude from Nine Inch Nails. It's you might want to rethink that,
Yeah, that's what nails him in as someone who gets music, not just he's a great musician. You can be a great musician and you can write great songs, but to really get music on that sort of level, I really think that's where composing comes in handy. And he and Atticus Ross together are phenomenal, but yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com. As we move down the line, coming out this weekend on Netflix, Pinocchio. Not just Pinocchio, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio.
And that distinction makes all of the difference, because Guillermo del Toro has been wanting to make Pinocchio for 15 years now. And he used a more recent translation from like 2002 as the basis for the film that we eventually saw now. He directs the film with Mark Gustafson, who was the animation director on Fantastic Mr. Fox and is a stop motion legend, basically.
Yeah.
Like, this man was working on Will Vinton, California Raisins, stop motion back in the day. And I don't even know where to begin, except that this is a good Pinocchio for parents to sit with slightly older children to watch, because it's not totally dark, and it's not like it's not like Guillermo del Toro's turning it into like Pan's Labyrinth, where it's an R-rated sort of fable. Like, this is still very much, you can watch this with a family, but the thing that he's been hyping up for so long, and the thing that's so awesome about this, is he wanted to do a more outside of the box story with Pinocchio, and part of it is he sets it in fascist Italy. And seeing it never goes too hard into the fascism angle, but I do have to say I congratulate them for having a movie where SpongeBob voices Mussolini, because Tom Kenny is the voice of Mussolini in this movie.
Oh, that's really funny. You know what?
But as for the movie,
he's real quick, he's one of those guys that when people talk about, I want to retell the story of, Pinocchio, or, any number of the projects, that are out there that people go back and they retell, like, when they go back and they tell Snow White again, or, one of these, like, you don't trust a lot of people to go back and do a different version of that story. But Guillermo, I trust him for this.
I trust him for anything, just because of the sheer fact that if he's tackling something, it's because he's in love with it.
Yeah.
Like, I first got to sit in front of that man at a press conference for Crimson Peak, and to hear him talk about Gothic romance and like the work of Edith Wharton. He could quote chapter and verse the influences that helped push him into these projects. And with Pinocchio, there's a lot of visual Easter eggs to his past films, but he's always had this sensibility right back to, like, you could even go back to Kronos and just look at, he's telling a dark fairy tale in that film about an older man that, is controlled by this device that allows him longevity, but also at what cost?
Yeah.
Like, that's pure fairy tale bread and butter right there. He just told it in a more mature and a little gorier context. And even Shape of Water is a fairy tale for adults. Pinocchio is definitely a fairy tale for children still. And I have not seen the Disney live action remake, but I'm kind of scared to, because I feel like it's just going to pale that much more in comparison, because of the fact that the creature design is beautiful. The story itself is beautiful. There's wonderful, like, songs. It doesn't go full musical, but there's great original songs in here that give it a little bit of heart. And then I was able to do the junket this week, and part of it was I sat with Guillermo del Toro and Mark Gustafson to talk about the film. So I wanted to ask them, look, you've been living with this for so long. What was the one scene that still knocked you out after living with this for all that time? And they admitted it was the ending. And
Really?
The ending to the movie ties everything up so beautifully, but doesn't sacrifice all the weirdness and the individuality that's been built into this movie.
Okay.
And it broke me into tears with how it lands the last couple minutes. Like, it's just so beautiful. And an amazing cast. Ron Perlman's in here, of course, as a fascist government official. You've got notables like John Turturro's in here. Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things plays Pinocchio's best friend. Gabriel Mann, who I believe this was his first big project as the voice of Pinocchio, is heartwarming. He's like a fantastic sort of just a great personality in the role, not just... It's very easy for someone to sit there and say, I'm a real boy, and like play what we think a fairy tale is. He embodies that innocence just perfectly. And Ewan McGregor plays Sebastian J. Cricket. This is not Jiminy Cricket. This is a different character altogether, and it is so perfect for Ewan McGregor because he gets to play like this haughty sort of stuffed shirt Cricket at times. And he's perfect for it.
I like it. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me to talk about movies. That's pretty much going to do it for the releases this week. Moving over to the world of movie news, not a ton out there, and I feel like I say that every week, that there's not a ton of like ground shifting stuff out there, but there's
ground shifting this week apparently.
Oh, did it? Because we were going to talk about. You want to talk about the DC stuff first?
Yes.
Okay,
because James Gunn, at the time we're recording, James Gunn has sort of spoken out about, he hasn't given total details, but he's definitely responded to that story.
Okay, and there's a couple different stories out there in the world of DC. One was about how much money Black Adam, like it had this great opening, but it actually lost them money.
Yeah, there was, I'm trying to think of how much that actually.
It was like $100 million they're going to come up short on it. Like, yeah, everything was great, but it still lost money. But you had the news of Wonder Woman 3 not going to be happening now. And then you were saying that Man of Steel 2 may not be as solid as folks think.
Well, what the whispers on the street were saying is definitely Wonder Woman 3 canceled. And also, to what you had said, Man of Steel 2 is in jeopardy. And that all ties into a greater point that some people have been saying that James Gunn and Peter Safran, who are now co-CEOs of DC Studios, might be just hitting the big reset button. Maybe that's why they moved Flash up a week in release. Yeah, the big rumor is that there's going to be some massive shift. So that was reported in a Hollywood Reporter story yesterday. And then today, James Gunn goes on Twitter and talks about how, like his first statement out of the gate, as for the story yesterday in the Hollywood Reporter, some of it is true, some of it is half true, some of it is not true, and some of it we haven't decided whether it's true or not. Although this first month at DC has been fruitful, building the next 10 years of story takes time, and we're still just beginning. And then he goes on, Peter and I have chose to helm DC Studios knowing we were coming into a fractious environment, both in the stories being told and the audience itself, and there would be an unavoidable transition period as we move into telling a cohesive story across film, TV, animation, and gaming. But in the end, drawbacks of that transitional period were dwarfed by the creative possibilities and opportunity to build upon what has worked in DC so far and to help rectify what is not. We know we are not going to make every single person happy every step of the way, but we can promise everything we do is done in the service of the story and in service of the DC characters we know you cherish and we have cherished our whole lives. As for more answers about the future of the DCU, I will sadly have to ask you to wait. We are giving these characters and stories the time and attention they deserve, and we ourselves still have a lot more questions to ask and answer.
They need to hit the reset button, right?
I don't know. I really don't know, because there is always the option of, look, you always could bring back Zack Snyder, finish those 2 Justice League movies, and then hit the reset button. But at the same time, if you really do want to hit the reset button, Flashpoint is probably the best opportunity to do so.
Yeah.
Because of it being built in the story, and because they're probably going to want a new Flash in there as soon as possible.
Yeah, that ship has sailed, we'll say. Listen, do I love Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman? Yes. But was Wonder Woman 2 awful? Yes. I'm sorry. It just was not a good movie. There was some interesting character stuff in there, but you know what? It's sometimes it's like you kind of said, it's we're figuring it out. We're giving them the attention, paying the attention they deserve. Henry Cavill, greatest Superman. Do I wish you would say yeah, but is it maybe time for a new Superman? Maybe. I don't know. I feel like if you're going to do it, because I always, you know what, and hear me out on this as I kind of ramble and stumble my way through this.
Like I don't.
It's been one of those things with DC where you never know if it's all in the same universe or not. Do you get that feeling sometimes?
Oh, I definitely get that feeling. And on top of that, I think that's been one of DC's stronger suits. Earlier on, I admit it kind of irked me that, Kevin Conroy wasn't always doing Batman or Tim Daly wasn't always voicing Superman. But at the same time, you were allowed to tell so many different types of story that...
Oh, I love that part
You could do something like Gotham Knight. You could do something like Gotham Knight, the animated anthology they did around the time of the Dark Knight. You could have those different interpretations. And it was a great have your cake and eat it too. And I understand we shifted into a world where the huge paradigm is get the cinematic universe established for anything that you want to deal with for like 5 years plus, and then start building around that, start teasing it, get the gears turning.
Yeah.
I understand that. Marvel put that into play, and we're not going to escape it for another decade. But I do miss the fact that you had these different interpretations, and the Batman should be able to exist with Robert Pattinson, but I still want more Ben Affleck Batman appearances. You need to have room for that sort of thing. And I'm really hoping that James Gunn and Peter Safran leave that sort of leave space for that, while also, you know, they'll want to establish like a core story that they want to tell and core heroes.
I always thought that I always felt like DC rushed just to keep up with Marvel.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I enjoy Batman versus Superman in the Ultimate Edition, and it still was very much rushing, like, okay, we have to have the massive event that kicks everything off, and like we have to have the team up movie, and I get that. If they had released Justice League the way Zack Snyder intended it to the first time, I don't think it would have been as much of a problem. I also think that if it still had bombed in theaters, they would have had plausible deniability, and they would have never had people. Yeah, they wouldn't have had as many people pushing for the Snyderverse to come back, and they wouldn't have had egg on their face and had the bad look that what the motions that they currently engaged in did.
Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com on the line with me right now, so we'll wait and find out what happens to DC and their movies and what happens. I'm a fan of them starting over, as much as, like I said, I love Gal Gadot, I love Henry, I love Ben Affleck. It's like, you know what, let's start over, let's really plan out this story and have a plan and to go into it and just bumble our way through it just so we can get Justice League out to compete with Marvel.
Again, you said it best with the whole Guillermo del Toro talk. I trust James Gunn and Peter Safran for what they're going to do with DC, because James Gunn obviously understands offbeat comic characters and on both sides of the fence. And Peter Safran is one of the producers of Shazam, and that's one of the few successes that I would say they have to their credit and that I really enjoy. Like, I am looking forward to Fury of the Gods.
Yeah. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend on the line with me right now. All right, what was one of the other stories that we were going to talk about?
Well, one of the other stories is, depending on who you talk to, the next James Bond may have been casted.
Now, we talked about this a little bit beforehand. Okay, who do we think it is?
So, according to celebrity gossip site Deux Mois, as well as English tabloid The Sun, Aaron Taylor Johnson, who was recently seen in Bullet Train and was also Kick-Ass in the Matthew Vaughn Kick-Ass movies, may be cast as the next James Bond, because allegedly what's happening is he had a secret audition with the producers, he wowed them, and now he's been cast, and there's going to be a trailer released in March and April to hype up his announcement. And I'm just going to stop people right there, because I think this is bogus. I think it's bogus because the next Bond movie is not filming until 2024.
Okay.
So they have plenty of time to choose a new Bond.
Yeah.
From what reports were saying in that respect, Barbara Broccoli, one of the producers of the franchise, was saying that they didn't even have a script because they haven't decided how they want to move forward with Bond yet. So they have to make that decision before they go into casting. And to cast, they need a script. They need an idea of a story approved to make sure that this next person fits that. So that's strike one. Strike two, if they are going to make an announcement next year, it's probably going to be in October because it's close to James Bond Day. And also, it kind of fits the timeline of Daniel Craig was announced October 2005. January 2006, Casino Royale goes into production. November 2006, Casino Royale goes out the door. So that's another thing. But the big thing is, Eon Productions does not like to stray from tradition because it's worked so well for them. I mean, that's why No Time to Die was one of the movies held for movie theaters. It's why they don't want to do spin-offs or streaming series that are set in the universe or offshoots of the universe. They're focused on the cinematic franchise. They're focused on doing things well the way they've been done and changing wherever they need to. I don't think they're going to put together a trailer just to announce this. They're going to want to have the usual press conference with all the journalists there. And, the people still talk about Daniel Craig riding in with the Royal Navy on a boat and then just stepping onto that dock, and they do the first press conference. It's a well-tuned machine that I think rumors are just, that's what they are right now. They're pure rumors.
You know what, though? I kind of want to revisit what I said beforehand. I was like, really? That dude? Because I'm pictured him from Kick-Ass, and, he was Pietro from, the MCU, and he's done a couple other things. But I pulled up his Wikipedia page, and the picture, his profile picture on the Wikipedia page, I'm like, damn, I'd let him be James Bond.
Yeah, I mean, even just looking at his appearance in the trailers for Bullet Train, the facial hair withstanding, he's like in a well-tailored suit.
Yeah.
And just standing there, throwing off lines. Like, I can't wait to watch Bullet Train, which is now on Netflix.
Yeah, we're hitting that this weekend.
Oh, yeah. No, it looked great on its own, but just seeing him sort of messing about in that universe, it's like, okay, this works for me. Yeah. I think Bond would be wonderful.
Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me on the line. How are we wrapping up this week?
I'm trying to think of the other story we had in the slot.
Like I said at the very beginning of this, we kind of came into it unprepared. It was just like, let's just record here. But,
Yeah, because we had Dark Tower.
That's it. That's what it was. Dark Tower.
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, people may remember that there was a Dark Tower film with Idris Elba starring, and Matthew McConaughey was the villain. And I'm a big Stephen King fan, but I'm not as obsessive or as deeply knowledgeable as other friends I have.
Uh-huh.
I thought the movie was okay. It was fun, but it definitely was not what I expected from, we're doing a Stephen King book. And then it's turned into like this big blockbuster piece of machinery that, like, it was okay, but I don't know if I would put it up there with like some of the best, most feeling King adaptations. So anyway, recently there was a thing that recently Mike Flanagan, director of Dr. Sleep, writer and director, showrunner of things like The Haunting of Hill House, a lot of Netflix stuff, Midnight Club. He left Netflix. He's going over to Amazon and working with Prime Video. And then today it was announced that he has the rights to The Dark Tower and is planning a massive adaptation of it. And I don't know if he's merely sticking to a TV adaptation or if he's going to go back to the old model that was pitched when they first started talking about doing this under J.J. Abrams and Ron Howard, where they were going to split it between movies and theaters and TV shows.
Okay.
All I know is I think he's focused on a TV show right now, and he's got outlines. He's got a pilot script that he's amazed with. I'm all for it. I am all for giving Mike Flanagan a blank check just because the work that man has done on stuff like Dr. Sleep burns itself into your mind and in your heart with such beauty.
Okay.
And while I would love for him to revive other projects like his adaptation of Revival, which I read this year and is an amazing Stephen King book, I'm glad that he's doing something this big and trying to do it justice. And I'm glad that Amazon's thrown their weight around with like that Lord of the Rings prestige, and it's like, okay, we've got some kids on the corner here. We're gonna wrestle.
I really wish that there were more book series done well, is a good way to say it.
Like TV shows that based on books.
Yeah, TV shows or movies. I just feel like people like take really good book series and they adapt them for stuff, and they're just never as good, and they're always disappointing.
Yeah.
So
very, very rarely does a book series land when it comes to an adaptation like that. But I guess we'll see.
Yeah. Hey, one thing I want to wrap up with, I forgot about, and it's an interesting move, I think, of a movie star going to a TV show. We're finally getting some first looks at Harrison Ford in 1923, the continuation of the Yellowstone stuff.
Ooh, boy. Sign me up.
Yeah. Have you watched Yellowstone?
Sign me the up.
Have you watched Yellowstone or 1883?
I've been wanting to watch Yellowstone. I need to renew Paramount, and I just haven't factored it into my time. But I've got a holiday break coming up, and I think I might try to start then, just because the buzz around Yellowstone itself has me interested. I love intrigue drama like that. 1883 sounded amazing. And then you've got 1923, which brings Indiana Jones into a land war with James fucking Bond.
Yeah.
Because Timothy Dalton looks like an amazing villain in this.
Yeah.
And then just that one part with Helen Mirren, where she's talking to like one of his lackeys, and she's like, "Men kill with bullets. That's quick, but you forget you're dealing with me." And just Taylor Sheridan continues to build this universe I am so excited to jump into, and I can't wait.
I'm going to tell you right now, like, Yellowstone's really good. Don't get me wrong, okay? 1883 was really good, but it is not an easy watch. Like, it's not a feel-good story. Okay.
Oh no, this is all backstabbing and like death and
betrayal. 1883 is more kind of like just like take the worst game of the Oregon Trail you've ever played, multiply it by 10, and add an alien in there that's going to really do some horrible things to you, and then you got kind of the basis of it. There's no alien in it or anything like that. I just dropped that in, but Sam Elliott was great in it.
Yeah, I figured.
Tim McGraw is really good at it, and Faith was really good.
Like Tim McGraw has been very vastly underrated as an actor.
Oh, he really is. He's a talented guy. But anyways, Harrison Ford in this universe just fits so well.
Oh yeah. Oh come on, like the grizzled cowboy.
Yeah.
Like that's something that people will always like. That's just an archetype that has always fit him well. And this looks like the most serious and most extensive time he's gotten to play around with it, because he really hasn't done that many westerns unless you count Cowboys versus Aliens or Cowboys and Aliens. I forget.
Where he was with James Bond again.
Sorry. Yeah. Oh, they were fighting together though.
Yeah, kinda. God, that movie was bad. That movie should have been good.
Yeah, I can only
I
imagine what happened that it wasn't.
So I'm looking forward to it. Harrison Ford going to be in 1923. Should be a lot of fun. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joins me every Friday on the show to talk about movies. Mike, we wrap it up there?
Yeah, but really quickly, when does 1923 start?
Let me look. Through the magic of editing, I'll have the answer in 3, 2, 1.
December 18th.
Oh, son of a bitch, you beat me. Say that again?
December 18th. December 18th on Paramount Plus. 1923 will kick off its season run.
That's going to be so good.
I'm ready, man.
Like I said, 1883 is not the feel-good show of the year, so just keep that in mind.
I mean, I almost feel like renewing my Paramount, and then just we could go through weekly and just talk about 1923, and then
there's that. There's Star Trek you have to catch up on. There's a world Beavis and Butthead. I still want
to watch The Stand. Oh, I still need to watch Beavis and Butthead. They better not cancel that.
There's a lot for you to catch up on.
I saw that first episode and I fell in love.
Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joins me every week on the show to talk about movies and such. Mike, you have yourself a great weekend.
You too, man. And don't forget, next week, we get to talk Avatar. And the crowd goes,